Good afternoon all. Now I am continuing my video lecture series based upon database management system. Now topic is a transaction concept with an AZID properties. A transaction can be defined as a group of tasks. A single task is processing unit which cannot be divided further. It is an example have a simple transactions with blank employee A account and B account. They are opening for A account, then the old balance will be minus with an 500 and the new balance will be detected with an A account, and then B accounts will be it is an adding with 500, so the new balance will be shown for the B account. We are having an ACID properties for DBMS, A for atomicity, C for consistency, I for isolations, D for durabilities, and then atomicity is an entire transaction that takes place at once, does not happen at all. Consistency means the database must be consistent before and after the transactions. Isolation, multiple transaction occurs independently without interferes. Durability means the changes of a successful transaction occurs even if the system failures occurs. It's an ACID properties. It is an atomicity means by this we mean that either entire transaction takes place at once happen at all. There is no midway. Transaction do not occur. Partial transaction is considered as one unit and either run to the completion and execute at all. It involves the following two operations: abort and commit. Abort is if a transaction abort cannot changes made to the database are not visible. Commit means if the transaction commit changes made are visible. Consider the following transaction T consisting of T1 and T2 transfer of X account from the Y account. These are the transaction will be happening with an T, and then if the transaction fails after completing of T1 but before completion of T2, after write of X and but before write of Y, then the amount has been detected from the not added to the Y. This result is an inconsistency data stated, and the transaction must be executed in the entirety or in order to ensure the correctness of database state. Consistency means it is an integrity consistency must be maintained so that the database consistent before the after transactions. It refers to the correctness of the database. Referring an example with total amount before and after transaction must be maintained. Total amount before T occurs 500 plus 200 equal to 700. After T occurs 400 plus 300 equal to 700. Therefore, the database is consistent. Inconsistent occurs in case T1 commit but T2 fails. As a result, T1 is incomplete. Isolation means this property ensures that multiple transactions can occur concurrently, leading to the inconsistency of the data state. Transaction occurs independently without interference. Changes occurring in the particular transaction will not be visible to any other transaction until that particular changes in that transaction is returned to memory or has been committed. This property ensures that the execution of transaction concurrently will result in the state that is equivalent to the state achieved and that are executed serially in some order. So let have an x equal to 500, y equal to 500. Consider two transactions T1 and T5. Both transactions will be taken place. Suppose T has an executed till read of Y, and then T dash starts. As a result, interleaving of operation takes place, due to which T dash reads the correct value of T, then the incorrect value of Y, and then sum will be computed with an T dash. Result in the database consistency due to loss of 550 units. Hence, transaction must take place in isolations and changes should be visible only after they have been made to the main memories. Durabilities. This property ensures that once the transaction has completed execution, the updates and modification to the database are stored in return to the disk and then proceed to even if the system failures occurs, these update none become permanent and are stored non-violate memories. Then properties with the responsibility maintenance property: atomicity for transaction manager, consistency for application programmers, isolation is used for concurrency control managers, durability is for recovery managers. These are the list of responsibility for maintaining the properties. The entire transaction takes place at once and does not happen at all. Sometimes if you are having any irrelevant transaction code, then it does not happen at all. Database must be consistent before and after the transaction. Multiple transaction occurs independently without interference. These are the ACID properties, and then changes of successful transaction occurs even if system failures occurs, it also occurs.